Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jackie Phillips, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Student Engagement in the Department of Engagement, Leadership, and Service. Thanks for joining either live or by watching the recording of this student organization Zoom series. Today, we'll be focusing on the engagement fairs, so providing a general overview of what those events will look like, as well as some important reminders, and then also some tips and tricks for managing your table, as well as preparing your student organization for tabling at the engagement fairs. And then I'm also happy to answer any questions that you may have. And so some general event details. We will be hosting 2 engagement fairs this year, formerly known as involvement fairs. And so those will be hosted on Tuesday, August 31st, and then Thursday, September 2nd, from 7 to 10 p.m. in the Tate Student Center. And so we will be taking over the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors of Tate on both of those evenings, in which hundreds of student organizations, a little over 150 student orgs will be tabling each of those nights. And organizations were informed late last week and into the weekend if they were assigned tabling space at the engagement fair. So if for some reason you have not heard from me or ELS, feel free to let me know. You can email us at ugaels@uga.edu, and I'm happy to check on the status of your organization. And we'll be following up via email with your specific table number, as well as a layout of the fairs as the events get closer. But for now, we've sent out whether or not you have space, and you'll be guaranteed a table. And then we'll be sending out specific table numbers, so assigning each organization a specific table leading up to next week. And all tabling space, as well as which night your student organization will be tabling, was based on organization categories. So if you remember, we asked on the registration form what category you'd like to be self-identify under, and that's how we determined which night your organization will be tabling. And if your organization has not completed re-registration for this upcoming academic year yet, unfortunately, you will not be able to participate. We'll continue working with you over the next week and a half to get registered. But if you are not currently registered, I can't guarantee that your registration will be reviewed and approved by that time, but we'll do our best to continue working with you in order to provide you a tabling space at the engagement fair. Some other event reminders: if your organization plans to fundraise or solicit donations, that includes selling any merchandise or potentially collecting dues if members plan to stop by, you will need to submit a fundraiser request form. We did ask that if you plan to fundraise or collect any money or sell items, that form was submitted to us by last Friday. However, if you'd like to submit it, we'll do our best to review and approve it. So please make sure to get that in as soon as possible if you do plan on fundraising or soliciting donations or items during the engagement fairs. Organizations are limited to promoting their organization at their assigned table, so we ask that you don't walk through the fair with any signage, music, or performances due to capacity numbers. So we'll have over 150 organizations tabling each night, as I mentioned before. And so we don't want things to get too crowded. And so this way we can ensure that everyone is kind of at their table, and that we can point students in your direction. So we ask that you remain at your table throughout the event. Obviously, members can take turns walking around, participating in some of the attractions that we'll have. But we do ask that someone remains at your table at the whole time, and at least the promoting of your organization, that stays at your assigned table. Unfortunately, music is not permitted at the event. We're really excited to have WUOG 90.5, our student-run radio station, DJing on the 4th floor, but we ask that individual organizations we ask that they don't play music throughout, just so that we can make sure that folks are able to hear as organizations are sharing more about how to join and about their organization. And that way we don't have tons of different musics going throughout the event. We encourage that if you are planning to show videos at your table, so if you plan to have a laptop with any promotional video, that you caption them. That way you can ensure that anyone talking with you knows what is saying, just so that we don't have a bunch of different sound going. As a reminder, organizations are responsible for cleaning up their own area. That includes any drop flyers, and ELS cannot be responsible for any items left behind. So make sure at the end of the fair that members are gathering all of your supplies and all of your materials and taking them with them so that nothing accidentally gets thrown away. And so that was some more general reminders about the event. In terms of check-in, and so we'll begin allowing organizations to set up at their tables starting at 5:30 p.m. And then at 6:30, we'll go around and check UGA cards just to check in student organizations. So we ask that your organization sets up its table by 6:30. And so you'll have from 5:30 to 6:30 to get set up. And then you can continue setting up after that 6:30 mark. We just ask that folks are present at your table by 6:30. This way, if any organizations don't show, we're able to provide that space to anyone on our wait list. And then we'll continue sending out reminders, including everything that I just covered, and any additional reminders to primary contacts leading up to the events. So please make sure to share that information with any organization members that might be tabling during the events. And so preparing for tabling. So as you start thinking about what information you want to share during the engagement fairs, we encourage y'all to prepare an elevator pitch for your student organization. And so that's a quick 30-second intro highlighting your organization. So some things to consider when establishing and creating your elevator pitch are your organization mission, what activities and events that y'all put on throughout the year, and then why might a student be interested in joining? So what are the benefits of them joining your organizations? What can they expect from it? Things of that sort. So potentially reach out to members of your organization and, brainstorm what are some fun facts that you can share and what information in those first few seconds that you're talking to a student are important to share. I think it's also important to identify reasons why someone should join your organization. So don't just tell them what your organization does, but more importantly, what can they get out of it? Whether that's friendship, experience in the field. All of your organizations are doing really awesome things. So maybe create a short list of all of those benefits so that you're ready to share those with the students that you're talking to. And then once you've established your elevator pitch and the different reasons that someone might be interested in joining, share those talking points with other organization leaders or anyone that might be tabling. Also consider thinking through some frequently asked questions. And so some that a lot of organizations get asked include, when are your meetings? What is the application process like if there is one? As well as what are some of the general events that you put on? And so potentially think through some of those frequently asked questions and come up with talking points for each of them, just so all organization members are up to speed and can provide the most up-to-date information with those that are chatting with them at the engagement fairs. Also consider assigning roles. So who might be answering questions at the table, who might be running a interest form or collecting information from people they're talking to, just so that folks are kind of all on the same page leading up to the fair in terms of what their role will look like during the fair, of who's going to set up the table, who's coming when, how you plan to have those conversations with students. And so maybe just talking through some of that and assigning some roles for the folks that plan to be at your table. And then also create a communication channel for members to use during the event so that you have a way of quickly communicating during the event if there's any issues that arise, or if there's any reminders that might be helpful for members coming, maybe not at 7, but later on in the event. And so during the actual fair, some tips and tricks for managing your table. Make sure that there's at least one representative tabling at all times. So it can be really helpful to create a internal sign-up sheet and having members sign up for different shifts. So we recognize that the fairs are a little lengthy from 7 to 10, but that provides different students the opportunity to stop by and chat with organizations based on their own schedule. And so feel free to create shifts and have different members kind of switch off throughout the event. It doesn't need to be the same people the whole time. Whatever's going to work best for your organization. And then consider giving some folks breaks so that they're not tabling the whole 3 hours, but rather have the opportunity to kind of walk around and enjoy the event themselves if they'd like. We don't know what the flow of traffic will look like. And so in years past, it's been a pretty busy event from 7 to 10. And we hope that this year will look the same. And so encourage folks that to remain optimistic and enthusiastic, and that there may be different flows in traffic. We anticipate the beginning will be quite busy. And then, there may be some quiet periods throughout. And so just make sure that folks stay, even if it does get a little quiet, and that they're prepared for that different ebbs and flows of traffic. Consider creating handouts or having promotional items to share with attendees. So to share with folks that stop by your table. And so that doesn't have to be anything fancy or expensive. You don't need to go out and order different promotional items. It can be something like a handout with more information or something they can take with them. And so we do have Tate Printing Copy here in the Tate Student Center, and they offer great pricing for student organizations and for the campus community. And so consider printing handouts through them. And then one recommendation that we've found over the years is potentially print on just, regular paper rather than cardstock, because students will be collecting tons of different handouts. And so there's no need, unless you'd really like to spend extra money on, the nicer material, when really you just want them to get the information and have a way to contact you and to be reminded of your organization after. So potentially consider, especially if you're going to be printing large quantities of printing, whether it's quarter sheets or half sheets, but printing on normal paper. And Printing Copy can provide you all of the different pricing and also can suggest different examples based on what you want to do. And then also ask organization members to wear a name tag or organizational attire, just so folks know when they walk up to the table who's actually there on behalf of your organization. There can be a lot of people, and so that can just help with some confusion, but they can also show the pride and spirit within your organization. Awesome. So I see a question here in the chat about how many handouts do we recommend printing? My recommendation is potentially printing out about 100, if not more. What you can always do, instead of handing them out to each member, is you can have them on the table, and that way they can grab it if they want. But what we've done in the past is had folks take a picture of it, and that's worked really well too. So it's really up to your organization and based on your budget. So we anticipate hopefully thousands of students coming by within that 3 hours, but that does not mean that you need to print out 1,000 plus handouts. Print what you all are comfortable with, and then maybe even have, one that's displayed, and that if you run out, you can have folks take a picture of it, or consider using QR codes to direct them to your website or your social media, things of that sort. So even if you run out of handouts or promotional items, then they still have a way to find your contact information and to stay in touch with y'all. And if anyone else has any suggestions in terms of what they have found to be helpful, feel free to send that in the chat, and I'm happy to read that out loud so that it can be shared with everyone. And so engaging participants during the fair, we encourage y'all to get creative and to be enthusiastic. Obviously, y'all love your organizations and y'all are all doing really great things. And so be ready to share that enthusiasm and to share your passion and love for your organization. We encourage you to think about what kind of displays do you want at your table. So you'll have the table, and you're more than welcome to, set it up however you'd like. And so potentially think about creating a trifold or other signs to, share out information. And so some things to consider in addition to your handouts and your elevator pitch, but on those actual materials, are a description of your organization, different ways that folks can get involved, meeting times and social media, as well as photos. Recognize that students probably aren't going to stand there forever reading it. So maybe some bullet points or some short blurbs might be helpful. But just ways to catch their attention, to share additional information while they're speaking to you, as well as while they're standing by, or maybe to catch their attention. What some folks have done instead of trifolds is print it out and put into like little plastic holders, different signs and QR codes. You might find that more helpful. So whatever works best for your organization and whatever y'all have time and want to put together. And then the use of QR codes can be really helpful in pointing students to find out more information, both during the fair, but then also afterwards. So consider what you want them to find, what information is most important for them to know, and consider different ways of displaying that, whether on a trifold or signs, or through the use of QR codes that they can scan while at your table and on those handouts. So share on social media that your organization's planning on participating. We've had lots of different students, especially our first years, already requesting to join different organizations on the involvement network. We've gotten a lot of questions asking which organizations will be tabling at the engagement fairs. And so we'll be uploading on our website, hopefully by tomorrow, a list of participating organizations by night. And we'll be sharing that out with students, but share on your social media that you'll be participating. I think that way students can get excited and know that they can come talk to you and in addition to helping promote the event. Consider creating an interest form to collect attendees' contact information. So, you're chatting with them during the fair, but you might want to follow up with them after. So consider having a laptop where you can collect students' emails or having a bit.ly or QR code that takes them to an electronic form they can fill out, whether that's through a Google Doc or through the involvement network. It's really up to you. But consider creating a form where you can collect their information so that you can send out reminders and follow-up emails afterwards about upcoming events and meetings, so that you can really get them to come out and fully participate in all that your student organization has to offer. And then lastly, make sure your organization's information on the involvement network is up to date. So that information was updated during the registration process, but we recognize that things might have changed between now and then. And so make sure that if you haven't already, that your contact information, as well as any meeting times or other important information is up to date on the involvement network. And that way, as students search the involvement network leading up to the event, as well as after, then they know how to get in contact with you and how they can fully participate in your organization. And so a few additional resources before we open it up for questions. The first is our first presidential summit will be this Thursday, August 26th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in the Tate Reception Hall. It's going to be an officer meet and greet. So we'll be having Ben and Jerry's ice cream, as well as opportunities to speed network and get to know other organization officers. And so we'll definitely have some questions and conversations around engaging with students at the engagement fairs and different recruitment methods, as well as a whole bunch of other topics related to student organizations. And so you might find that helpful. And so if you haven't already, we'd love for you to RSVP at the bit.ly here. And that form can also be found on the involvement network if you just search meet and greet under events. We're also going to be having lots of different mini engagement fairs throughout the semester. So we have 6 planned for this fall, and we'll continue them into the spring semester. And so the sign up for the mini engagement fairs is live, and that form can also be found on the involvement network and within our student involvement listserv. And so if you're interested in some free tabling opportunities following the engagement fair, you're more than welcome to sign up. We'd love to have your organizations participate in those. And then we'll also be continuing the student organization Zoom series throughout the semester. So if there's any topics that would be helpful for you and your student organization, feel free to send me any ideas. I'd love to hear them. You can reach out to us at ugaels@uga.edu. And then this recording, so if you want to share this information with other organization members, I'll post this recording on our YouTube and at this bit.ly. So you can find all of our Zoom series recordings on our YouTube channel, as well as our website. But if anyone has any questions or ideas that they'd like to share, feel free to send those in the chat or to unmute yourself, and we'll make sure that those also get included in this recording. But if anyone has any questions about the logistical side of the engagement fairs or things to consider as you're preparing, feel free to send those now. I know one question we've been receiving quite a bit over the last few days is whether or not organizations can table at more than one fair. And so organizations are each assigned to one of the fairs, once again, based on organizational categories. So unfortunately, at this time, we're not able to accommodate student organizations tabling at both nights, but we are really excited to have your organizations participate in one of the nights, and we'll definitely be highlighting student organizations all throughout the semester as well. So that's one of the questions we've been receiving a lot. Are there any questions from folks that are currently attending?
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, sorry, I do have a question, although it's like related to student orgs, but not like directly to the fair. So you mentioned something about dues, and for first-time clubs that are like just looking to start to introduce like dues to the organization. I think it would be really helpful to have like a module on that, because I know there is one about solicitation and like raising funds like that, but I didn't really see like anything in particular on setting this up like the first time. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks so much for sharing. And did you say that you're a new organization?
Sorry, not a new organization, an organization looking to set up dues for the first time. Thank you.
Gotcha. No, thank you for that suggestion. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or ideas that you think would be helpful for others as they prepare for the engagement fairs? So I see here a question in the chat about whether or not there's a limit to how many people can table at a time. So as of right now, there are not restrictions on how many folks can table at a time. My encouragement is having 2 folks at the table at a time. that allows for being able to have multiple conversations going, so that if someone walks up while you're currently having a conversation, that another member can then have that. So while there aren't necessarily restrictions, my recommendation is that allows, not overcrowding at the table, but then also allows to have multiple conversations going. But ultimately it is up to your organization how many folks you want there. And if anything changes between now and next week, when the engagement fairs occur, we'll be sure to email that out if there is a restriction on that. But as of right now, you're welcome to have as many members as you like, but my encouragement would be probably no more than 3. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for attending today's student organization Zoom series. If you have questions, I'll stay on for a little bit. And if you're watching the recording following this session, feel free to reach out to us at ugaels@uga.edu if you have any questions. But if not, I look forward to working with you all this year. And thanks for attending today's session.